In this video, I'll kitbash a warband for a subfaction of Trench Pilgrims, and show off some of the cool Trench Crusade stuff that I saw at Adepticon this year. Since making my bell-toting Shrine Anchorite last year, I've been thinking about kitbashing some Trench Pilgrims to fight alongside it. This is what a typical Trench Pilgrim warband looks like. Pretty awesome. However, I don't really have the bits to do justice to these cool designs, especially the iron capirote that they wear as helmets. Instead, I took a look at the subfactions of Trench Pilgrims, and the Procession of the Sacred Affliction jumped out at me right away. This subfaction focuses on Trench Pilgrims who forgo the iron capirote for yellow wrappings which cover their self-inflicted leprosy. Their raggedy appearance reminded me a bit of the Cotter gang from Necromunda, who are also a bunch of religious zealots. Since I had some Cotter sprues lying around, it seemed like the perfect choice. I would just need some wrapped up heads with gas masks to accomplish the kit bashes that I was envisioning. First, I considered some Chaos Cultist heads, and while I do think these would have worked, my brother had a better idea. For the past couple of years, my brother has been experimenting with 3D printing, and had recently picked up a new printer. Using free designs found on Cults 3D, he suggested that I could print a small conversion pack of bits to help me build my warband. At the time, the Procession of the Sacred Affliction had only a few pieces of artwork to reference, which show some of the regular Trench Pilgrims, wrapped in cloth with large millstones around their necks, adorned with holy icons. I also wanted these Trench Pilgrims to match my custom Shrine Anchorite, so I wanted to print a bunch of bells of various sizes. Along with a few extras which I will mention later, I had a complete set of conversion bits for this faction. And I gotta say, these bits are perfect. Being able to use a mixture of 3D printed bits and plastic kits is a bit of a new thing for me, but it seemed like a really good idea. For my first conversions, I wanted to copy these poses shown in this illustration. For these, I used Cotter bodies, old Catachan jungle fighter arms, and the 3D printed parts. I was quite happy with how they turned out, so I made a couple of additional pilgrims in this style, being sure to add millstones as punishment for their sins. Now, the source art really only depicts regular Trench Pilgrims for this faction, and since I would be converting a whole warband, I wanted to carry their aesthetic through to the other unit types. I knew I would need a war prophet, a castigator, a communicant, and probably some stigmatic nuns. For the War Prophet, I used a Stormcast Eternal model, and replaced some of its weapons with those from the artwork. This art already includes bells, which was perfect for matching my Shrine Anchorite. For the cross on his back, I used a tombstone from Renedra's Graveyard sprue. For the Castigator, I knew I wanted a 3D print of that shield, and also a unique head that was wrapped up like the other afflicted Trench Pilgrims. I combined those bits with this excellent Confessor model from the Sanctifier's Adeptus Ministorum's Zealots kill team. He has such powerful and looming presence and matches the religious zealotry vibe perfectly. I used a Cotter bit to create his anti-tank hammer, and used some missile-looking bits from a Space Marine kit. Next came the Communicant. I knew I wanted to create an absolute monster for my Communicant. His artwork also featured a bell, so that continued to be a motif in my warband. I really didn't have a complete base model to work from, so I used a bunch of parts from several kits. The main torso is one of the Chaos Ogre things from the Chaos War Shrine kit. The arms and weapon haft are from the Anchorite Theridon's kit, and the legs are sculpted from green stuff over a simple wire armature. I used some of the 3D printed bits and some chain to make a large flail, which featured even more bells and a millstone. For the head, my brother digitally kitbashed 2 separate 3D models. To make him more leprous, I added additional cloth wrappings to his shoulders using green stuff, and I further laden him with a tombstone, crosses, and another millstone. For my 2 stigmatic nuns, I used the Salvationist and Miraculist, again from the Sanctifier's Adeptus Ministorum Zealots set, with only minor alterations. I actually finished the conversions a few months ago, but with Adepticon coming, I decided I would try to paint them. So with 2 weeks until the event, I posted the converted models to my Instagram, and then promptly primed them. I didn't end up painting them on time, but I did manage to paint a single test ski miniature before waking up on March 25th, 2026, only to be met with the news that Factory Fortress had revealed their very first boxed game, the Carcass Front, for Trench Crusade. This featured new plastic models for the Procession of the Sacred Affliction, the very faction I was just starting to paint. This was super exciting and motivating. I already had a plan to bring my warband to Adepticon with the hopes that I might find some time to hang out with other Trench Crusade enthusiasts and finish painting my squad. So I hopped in my old buddy Taylor's car and we drove 10 hours to Milwaukee. Pretty much the first thing I checked out on Thursday morning was the Trench Crusade booth in the vendor hall. And the thing that really caught your eye right away was the gigantic artillery witch, which has become the de facto mascot of the Trench Crusade game. After that, I marvel at the half dozen or so demo tables that have these fantastic vignettes showcasing various battlefield environments. I also checked out the miniatures for the Carcass Front box game, as well as all the cool life-size props that they have on display. Factory Fortress was very prepared for this show and had ample product. I even managed to snag a copy of the hardcover rulebook for my brother. As soon as the doors to the vendor hall opened, the booth was flooded with excited Trench Crusade fans, and the checkout line quickly started wrapping around into the booth behind them. The buzz for this game was palpable and evident throughout the entire vendor hall. From paint-and-take Prussians at the Army Painter to expertly painted Great Hunger models at the Creature Caster booth, you couldn't go very far without seeing Trench Crusade-inspired offerings. Factory Fortress also had a dedicated room for all of the Trench Crusade events that were happening at the event, and it was constantly buzzing with people. It was smartly situated next to the infamous Grim Dark Alley, where you will always find some very friendly and dedicated hobby enthusiasts. It was in this area that I made a little setup for myself to continue painting my Trench Pilgrims. Having previously consulted the colors that I used for my Shrine Anchorite, I had brought exactly the colors I needed to complete the warband. As with my Anchorite, I'm using a few speed painting techniques and aiming for a grim dark style using streaking grime. I started with some base coats over a Zenithal Prime using this Games Workshop yellow base paint, AK's gray-green, AK's green-gray, the Army Painter's Gunmetal, Army Painter Weapon Bronze, and Army Painter Barbarian Flesh. Once the base coats were done, I covered the miniatures in AK's Winter Streaking Grime. Then after about 30 minutes or so, I used some airbrush thinner and a makeup sponge to remove the streaking grime from the raised surfaces. For a more detailed explanation of this process, check out my video featuring my Shrine Anchorite Kitbash. While painting, I had a few great conversations with people who took an interest in my warband, and even had someone who recognized my Shrine Anchorite from Instagram. All that was left was to make some muddy bases and to glue down my models. I then took them over to the Trench Crusade Hall and checked out some of the amazing custom gaming boards that have been brought from all over. There was some stunning creativity on display, and this beached submarine board was a particular standout. There was even a small board set up where you could take pictures of your models, which I did. So I accomplished my mission of painting my warband at Adepticon. All that was left was to check out the Trench Crusade presentation. I showed up a bit early, and I was able to get a great seat in the front row. I asked Jamie Parsons and Mike Francina if I could record the presentation, and they said yes.
He's like, I dreamt of this. And it's like, I don't know, like serpents bursting from a dude's chest. And every time I have to be Mike, that is not a dream, that's a nightmare. Is that a sound test?
And it was a good thing that I did, I think, because no one else seemed to be recording it. You can check out the presentation and the Q&A on my channel. If you do, please excuse the bad audio. I sort of recorded the presentation on a whim and was clumsily placing my fingers all over my phone's microphone at the time. It was cool to get a bit of a lore drop about the Procession of the Sacred Affliction right after completing my own version of the warband. I was really happy with how well my kitbashes seemed to fit with the vibe of the new models. In particular, the new musician model with a bell strapped to his shoulders was a perfect match from my Anchorite conversion. I even had a chance afterwards to show Mike Francina my finished warband and explained how I had built my warband with a bell theme to match my shrine Anchorite. He provided me with a bit more lore for the bell pilgrim, saying he imagined that the bell would ring as he walked, serving as a warning to steer clear of their infectious leprosy. Getting to meet and talk to game designers and game company owners is one of the great perks of attending Adepticon.
All right, so that turn is like everybody's activated at this point, and so it would go to like every round, and like they all.
Overall, I was supremely impressed at the excitement and enthusiasm for Trench Crusade that I witnessed all weekend long. It's really re-energized me to continue to explore even more Trench Crusade projects, including a custom-designed warband and my own scratch-built Trench Crusade gaming table. So please like and subscribe if you want to see those in the future. And if you were at Adepticon this year, back me up in the comments about just how incredible the energy was for Trench Crusade at this event. This is Xander's Arcane Study. Thanks for watching.